So Nathan, if you'd just like to tell us a little bit about what you do, why you do it, and any kind of insightful things you can pass on with tonight's topic, that would be amazing. And then we'll just fire some questions over from myself and Kim and the rest of the audience.
Yeah, sure thing. So I run a digital magazine called Founder. I started it about 4 years ago off the back of a credit card. Cost me about $3,000 to start it. Fast forward to now, we're a multi-million-dollar company, and we've got at least 1 million people consuming our content every single month across many different platforms. We're much more than a magazine now. We sell physical products, digital courses, membership site, and the magazine, and many other things. We're going to get into events and all sorts of other things. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey. In regards to social media, we're quite strong. I'm pretty passionate about social. It's been how we've been able to grow the brand quite fast. We have over 1 million followers on Instagram, which I've been able to build up in about 2 years. Now, Facebook's quite strong now. I'm growing that at least quite fast, and it drives a lot of traffic for us. Same with Instagram, drives a lot of traffic. So I 100% agree with what Tom was saying about ROI. It's all about ROI. Likes and followers don't pay the bills. So yeah, I'm really passionate about social media, lead generation. And what I'm trying to do with Founder is essentially build a household name entrepreneurial brand that produces the best kind of content out there to help early stage startup founders, aspiring novice stage startup founders, or even experienced entrepreneurs and founders. And the reason I started it was because at the time, 4 years ago, there wasn't really a magazine that I could personally relate to, wanting to start a business. And I just started as a side hobby passion project, just started it for fun, didn't really know where it would go. In fact, I was trying to get a job in marketing. So this is my first business, and no one would hire me in marketing. I had a master's of marketing, and even the company that I was working at, I went for 3 job interviews in marketing. I was working full-time in IT, and no one would give me a job because I had no experience. So I just created this magazine as I thought there was a need there, thought there was a problem, didn't know how far I would end up taking it, and just kind of fell into it.
Amazing. So you talk about you falling into that there. Was there a point or a catalyst? Did you actually do any did you look into maybe if there was a product market fit there, or was it kind of that passion really drove you to think, right, okay, your personal need, was that the catalyst or?
Yeah, look, I wish I could tell you that there was like serious strategy and I knew what I was doing. I think when anybody first starts their business, it's a little bit of just faith, blind faith. And I didn't know what the lean startup was. I didn't know about how to validate a product. Literally, I just thought it would be really cool to create an awesome magazine that showed actionable advice. And actually said, this is how you do X or Y. I knew podcasts were getting really, really hot. And yeah, I just kind of spun this thing together. An opportunity also at the time presented itself to create a digital magazine using off-the-shelf publishing software. And when I launched the first day, we made $5. We had two subscribers, and then the rest was kind of history. And because it's on the App Store, Google Play Store. It's a subscription-based business model. And what was really cool, what kept me going, even when we're making a couple of $100 a month in the early days, one of the biggest things that kept me going was that promise. That promise that we were a monthly publication, and if you subscribe to the magazine, you will get an issue every single month. And actually, we're just about to publish issue number 50. So we have never missed a shipping date. We ship the middle of every month. And it was just kind of me not wanting to let people down and just seeing it through, and it just kind of grew as time went on. And then, I remember even asking people when I was about a year in, have I found product market fit after I read the Lean Startup, and yeah, it just kind of evolved over time. And also one thing that I did is I paid a very big attention to those early stage subscribers that were signing up, even if it was a couple of bucks a month. I was interviewing them. I was speaking to them on Skype, and I spoke to so many people to find out, one, how they found the magazine, because then I would know what channels are working, like what Tom was talking about, relentlessly testing. And two, I find out what they like the most about the magazine, what they like the least.
And what you can improve, I should imagine.
100%. So I constantly refined.
And obviously, you said you've got a strong passion for social media, and that's obviously helped your business to grow. So maybe there's some people in this room, they're not as passionate or they don't have as much knowledge. What would be a good starting point? Obviously, Tom touched upon some of those. Do you have your own kind of thoughts on that, or is it kind of reflecting the same?
Yeah, look, when it comes to social, it can be quite intimidating. So I really understand that question. To be honest, when I started on Instagram, before I even started on Instagram, I was really intimidated by the platform. And I think you just have to test one channel or one platform at a time. There's a lot of great content out there. You know, you can go to Founder and we talk at length. Like that's one of our core value propositions when it comes to, because we're a content-based business. We put and give away our best stuff for free. So if you type in like Founder, you know, Instagram strategies, whatever, you'll see, like, I'm talking 5,000 word blog posts on how we do this stuff. There's plenty of startups that's a part of their content marketing strategy where, you know, like Intercom, Buffer, all these great content marketing company, companies that do content marketing really well, produce content that is so good that they give away their best stuff. I think that's one of the best ways to bring people into your ecosystem. So you can research, but I think the first thing you want to do is just really think about your customer. Even if you don't have any customers yet, really try and think about and understand and speak to prospective customers around where they would hang out. Like if you're doing a B2B SaaS, you'd probably be looking at LinkedIn. You know, if you're doing a physical product or a B2C, you're probably looking at Instagram, especially a fashion, the person in the audience, fashion. Instagram's, I believe, probably the best channel besides Facebook ads if you're good at them and you know your margins and can, get super, data driven as Tom described. So then, once you've worked out, you've got an inkling of those channels, you literally just do your own research, man. Like I used to work in IT support 4 years ago and I knew nothing about marketing. What I learned in my degree taught me zilch around how to, be good at marketing or, grow a startup or do growth hacking. You just have to, I guess, if you want to grow your business, it's not about necessarily having a passion for social media, but a passion for wanting to grow your business, right? And you just got to choose one channel, have a think about where your customer hangs out, where your prospective customers hangs out, and just test, and obviously look for an ROI. I'll give you an example how I found Instagram and why it was a game changer for us and how I've used a growth hacking mindset, as Tom described, to really use that channel and really capitalize on it. So, it took me I started the magazine while I was working my day job. If you guys, I saw in the audience, a lot of you guys have just started or you've been doing it, maybe for a year or less. I think it's very, very wise if you are not making enough money not to go full time, unless you can fully replace your income. So, the way I always recommend and the way I did it was I worked on my, in my day job full time for at least a year before I left. And, once I left, so it took me about a year. So that was, in 2014, mid 2014, I left and I was like, okay, now I've got all this time. What am I going to do with it? How am I going to grow this thing? I'm not just focused on producing the magazine every month. Like, how can I seriously grow it? So I tried, all these different channels that people talk about. I tried blogging. I tried, because it's an app, I tried paying for Facebook ad installs. I tried Twitter. I tried Pinterest. And, I tried Instagram. And the thing that I saw with Instagram was I saw on our Google Analytics when I just started doing some stuff on Instagram and tracking it, that our sales spiked and our subscriptions spiked in the first couple of days. And then that took me down this path that I was onto something. We made an extra couple of $100 that day in subscriptions. I was like, yep, there's something here. And that's where I went down this path of actually, I think, one of the best ways to master anything, not just social, is to find people that are really, really good at what you want to do and learn from them. Like that's how I connected with Kim, so that's what he does. So, I think that's the way to go about it. That's how I started really understanding Instagram. In fact, I saw there was a spike and then I actually, a reader of the magazine that's just by coincidence lived in Melbourne. He lived in Frankston and he wanted to catch up, and he had like this fan page that had like 50,000 followers on Instagram. And I was like, yeah, let's catch up. And then I learnt from him, and he showed me like all these certain things around how to do it and how to master it. So I think focus on one channel at a time. Really think about where your customer or your prospective customers and your audience hangs out. Where's your tribe? Where's the kind of people that you want to attract? Like I said, B2B, you're looking at LinkedIn, going cold. I think also, B2C, you're looking at your Facebooks, your Instagrams, your Pinterests, and then just try and look online to find free information, or find people that are crushing it, doing the things that you want to do, and then just test and learn and just make sure you get an ROI. That's the most important thing, as Tom mentioned. Like I said, we have 1 million followers on Instagram, but that actually doesn't mean anything to me. Like, we have one of the largest brands in Australia on Instagram, like in terms of follower count. It's one of the fastest growing Instagram accounts in the world. I actually really don't care how many followers we have. I care how many clicks, how much traffic we can drive, and how we can get people on our email list to further facilitate that relationship and get people into our ecosystem. Because that also, a reason that you want to look to not, you have to understand, is that is not your platform. So if Instagram turn around tomorrow, which they have, the Instagram algorithm, Instagram was much more powerful in terms of driving traffic 2 years ago as opposed to now. We still drive a lot of traffic, don't get me wrong, but in the scheme of things, it's not as powerful. So if they decide tomorrow to turn it off, it's no good. Then at least we've captured 250,000 email subscribers from that platform, and this is a platform that we own. So that's also another thing to remember, that you can't just rely on one channel. You have to look to master them all. That's one thing that Gary Vee taught me. If anyone knows Gary Vaynerchuk, amazing, very, very smart guy at social, very, very smart guy on growth. And you have to work towards mastering them all, especially if you want to build something long term. Like for me, we've found I want to build a legacy. I want to build a household name, entrepreneurial brand. So I can see myself, I'm going to be doing this 10 years from now. So I'm looking to master all the channels, but you have to focus on one at a time and not rely on just one.
Yeah. And obviously you create a lot of value to your own business through the content. Is there any tips for the audience as well, based around, you could have, for example, you might be wanting to track all this, you might have the best skills to track it and the best knowledge, but how do these people out here generate the best posts? How can they kind of add value to their business in a kind of simple format?
So you want to know content marketing strategies like blogging and stuff, or?
No, how can they tailor, or do you have any tips on kind of the ideal post? Do you find something that kind of is the perfect fit for a post? Is it based around kind of what you're doing at the time, or?
Yeah. So in regards to social content, it really depends on if you're B2C or if you're B2B, or the industry you're in, or the niche or market that you're serving. But I'll give you some great ideas. So for us, what we found worked really, really well, and I highly recommend you don't do this, period, unless it's regarded, like it's in line with, it's relevant to your audience, what you love, but what your audience loves. But for us, we found quotes and memes work really, really well for people that are interested in the entrepreneurial startup space. And so we produce, quotes and entrepreneurial content at scale. So I'm talking startup tips, startup quotes, startup facts. People love that stuff. But obviously we mix it in with, the magazine covers, the podcast content. And we also now, because we have a physical product, and we should do it more, we don't do it as much as we used to, but user-generated content is very, very key. So we just crowdfunded a coffee table book about 5 months ago, and it literally just shipped last week, and was just only this week starting to see people taking photos with this physical coffee table book. And that's user-generated content. We're going to post that. So having, if you have an e-commerce brand, sell a physical product, one of the biggest things, I think the best things you can do if you have a physical product is post aspirational content. So if you sell, let's say, hair products, like, hair care products for females, you're going to have, aspirational images of those people that are using your product. You know, like really, you know, doesn't have to be a good-looking person, but an everyday person using your product, or you have to have photos of that product, because you have to remember that whatever you post, it has to be related to your business. Otherwise, people aren't, like, there's no point in getting followers if they're following you for a different reason. They have to want to follow your brand or what you do, if you have a personal brand, around providing some sort of value. So for me, for example, if I see, like, you know, a cafe in Melbourne on Instagram and their food looks amazing, I'll probably follow them, or, you know, like, you know, I'm going to follow them because I know that one day I want to go. So you have to post content that's in strong relation to whatever it is, the problem that you're solving, or whatever market or niche that you're serving. And you have to, I think one of the best things people can do is create user-generated content, because that's what sells. Before and after case studies, anything that that your product or your service solves, before and after case studies, anything like that. And yeah, aspirational kind of stuff, and just really, as Tom said, really knowing your audience. And part of knowing your audience is speaking to your first customer, speaking to your prospective customers. Actually, like, what's cool about Instagram, right? And this is a strategy that I'm actually doing. So, you know, I run Founder, but I'm starting like a little physical product business on the side for my girlfriend, with my girlfriend, just for fun. And it's a time-marked water bottle. So it's a physical product, got nothing to do with doing quotes, none of that. So a physical product. It's a drink bottle that has, you know, they say that you should drink 2 liters of water a day. So on the bottle, it's marked by time. And like, I know that there's other bottles out there that, you know, like, they're fashionable bottles, right? There's many different companies that do fashionable bottles, and they have very big followings on Instagram. And I know that these companies, they use hashtags, right? And I know that a lot of people post photos with this company's bottles. So I will actually, I'll look and search for the hashtag. I will search and look at that person, and I'll see what other what other companies and brands and pages they follow. And you can start to see a pattern. You can start to see the influencers they follow. You can start to see other brands that they follow. And then you can really understand and get an insight into their life and the way they think about the world and where they spend time. So that's how deep you have to know your customers as well. And once you know them so well, even if you haven't made a sale yet, even if you haven't sold anything, there's plenty of ways to research, look at what your competitors are doing, and look at your competitors' customers. And once you know that, then you'll start to work out the best kind of content to post. And then another thing you want to do is, especially when it comes to Instagram, we're talking about Instagram now, there's a tool that you can use. What's it called? It's called Command. It's called Command, and it's on the App Store. And what it does is you can run scans on your competitors, and you can find their most liked content and their most commented content. So if there's a bottle brand called Sway, and they charge $100 a bottle. And we can use this tool called Command, and we can run a scan on their account, and it's going to tell us their most liked images and their most commented images, and we can look at hashtags to see, you know, what people are posting, where they're hanging out, what they're interested in, and across all of that, you can paint a pretty good picture, like, of what to do or what to post and the kind of content that people will like.
Sounds like you're pretty creative with exploring the customers, and also Kim, have you got any questions?
Yeah, you talked about how you were in IT. Before you jumped over to Founder, was social media something which you had always been passionate about, or was this something you just discovered along the way?
Yeah, no, it was something that I discovered along the way, and purely because I'm much like Tom, I'm a growth hacker. I'm a marketer. I love marketing. That's the fun part for me. I could do this all day, every day. This was born to do. So no, I'd never had any passion for social media at all. Just kind of just like the channels. This is fun.
And what's been your biggest social media gaffe?
Say that again, sorry.
Your biggest social media gaffe, mistake.
Oh, mistake. Sorry, I'd never heard of gaffe. My bad. Across any platform. Swearing. In the early days, I didn't realize how sensitive people were to swear words. And I, me, like, pretty chill, like, so if I posted something like, like a quote's like saying like work fucking harder or something like that, like there was outrage. Lucky I was monitoring it pretty quickly. I think, yeah, just kind of maybe being disrespectful to our audience. Lucky we took it down pretty quickly. What else? I don't know if this is maybe a social media mistake, but I think one thing that we could do better at Founder is humanize the brand a little more. We probably should show more behind the scenes of the things that we're doing and the team and all those kinds of things. And I guess maybe, to be honest, that's a little bit my own insecurity, because we don't have a big team, but our brand is perceived like it's quite a large brand. So that's something I think we definitely can do a better job of, that we're not that strong on, to be honest, and it's not hard. So that's something because the thing with social media, right, guys, is it's all about building a relationship and facilitating a relationship, whether it's on any platform, YouTube, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram. People follow that brand or that person to build a relationship in some way, shape, or form, and you really want to connect with that person, as Tom said about connecting with people through stories or connecting with people on an emotional level. And the more that you can kind of humanize your brand, I think the more powerful it is. The way that we connect with people on an emotional level, it was interesting when Tom said that, and I was thinking about like what we do is we use great design because great design excites me, and I know great design excites our customers and people that follow the brand, and we have killer content. Like, yes, we're not a Forbes, Fast Company, Entrepreneurial Inc., but we interview all the same entrepreneurs they do, and we put an interesting spin and different spin, like, the Richard Bransons, the Mark Cubans, the Ariana Huffingtons. So that actually gets people excited, and there's a spirit behind the brand where it's the underdog, where there's a different spirit and there's a different feel that excites people, that people want to follow along on the journey, and it's interesting, and what we're doing at Founder and how we're creating something from nothing, and how our content's awesome. So that's how we trigger that emotion. But yeah, I really do believe that, and we will change. We will get better at humanizing it.
Now, you've interviewed some incredible names at Founder. Can you walk us through the process of how you got them on board? Initially, even the start.
Yeah, sure thing. So when I first started the magazine, in the early days, issue number 8, we had Richard Branson, but I pitched for Richard Branson in the first 4 months of starting, and also had a bit of trouble during the time period as well, because I was sued for trademark infringement by one of the biggest business magazines in the States, which was interesting. So you can imagine first ever business, getting sued, getting served. It was a horrifying experience. So I'll never forget that. But the process is this. When it comes to having a magazine, I didn't know this at the time, Kim, but it's incredibly powerful for building influence and building a brand. And there's a quite a high perceived value for when you publish a magazine, even if it's just in digital. Now, we're actually going to start printing the magazine, but not on a subscription basis, actually at a bespoke level. So we'll do a la carte, like we'll do 10,000 or 20,000 copies of the Branson issue, and do free plus shipping, funnels and all sorts of things. But the process is this: first, you have some sort of kind of authority, with what you're doing, so people will take you seriously. Then the second thing is you need to find the gatekeeper. So in Richard Branson's case, it was his head of PR. It doesn't always have to be the head of PR or the PR person internally. It can be someone externally. So, for example, when I interviewed the late CEO of SurveyMonkey, or, for example, the founders of Eventbrite, or the founders of Indiegogo, they all came from one PR agency relationship. and they are the gatekeepers. So what happens is a lot of these startups or a lot of these big companies, they pay PR agencies big dollars on big retainers to go and get them press. So if you can find those agencies and make them look good, then it's a much easier yes. So like, for example, when Tim Ferriss launches a book, I know the agency and they're going to come to me and say, hey, Tim's doing this. Are you available? Can we do a front cover? Can we do this? Can we do that? Same with, Tony Robbins. I just come back from interviewing Tony Robbins for the second time in New York, and that came from pitching his agency for his book launch. So that comes to the third thing, where you have to make sure that person, it's a right place, right time situation. So I can't just go to Warren Buffett and say, not that we haven't interviewed Warren Buffett, but I can't just say Warren Buffett, pitch his people, because he's not looking to do that right now. But if he's launched a book, or if he's coming to Australia, then he's doing a tour. For example, I missed the boat with Elon Musk, but a long time ago, Elon Musk opened Tesla here. So a lot of the time when, this is one thing I use to our advantage, because we're based out of Australia, when these companies, these big startups or these big companies, they want to build a presence in Australia and they open up an office, what they do is they bring out the founder, like for the Square. I think you were there for the Square one, yeah. But and I was pitching hard. I get a lot of no's too. I was pitching hard that agency, and they just wouldn't budge. They wouldn't give me anything. But I knew the agency. I knew it was happening. I just didn't have that relationship. If they trusted me, they would have said, "Yep, we can do something with Jack. No worries." It's obviously the founder of Twitter and Square. So that's how we do it, man. And we also plan out our front covers well in advance. So we, by the time it hit March, we had all the whole year's front covers booked in. Wow. So by doing that and planning, it allows us to get, it allows us to play with time. So this Friday, interviewing the founder of Reddit, that was scheduled up 3-4 months ago. So it's just planning as well. That's key forward planning.
So one thing I do is I social stalk people sometimes when I want to get in contact with them. You add them on Facebook, you send them a tweet, you add them on Instagram, send them some DMs. Do you do that too, or?
I have, yes. So for Sophia Amoruso, founder of Nasty Gal, it's actually going under. She's really cool. I really like her. I followed her. We followed her as founder on Instagram, and we started to comment. So that's actually a really smart strategy, especially because our Instagram account is verified, so it has the blue tick. So whenever anybody comments on any photo, if you have a blue tick and you're verified, it'll always appear at the top, and it'll always appear. You don't even need to press on view comments. It'll be naturally at the top. So that way these influencers see those comments. Because there's not many accounts that are verified, and there's not many accounts that have 1 million followers. So I have used that as a strategy, and it has worked. And yeah, I'm sure when we started liking, commenting, and then pitched her agency, and they went to her, she said yes, because she's rejected us before.
What was the moment where you sat back and you looked at what you had created with your social media and your business, and you thought, holy moly, this is going to go nuts?
Oh man, I wish I could tell you I've done that. I haven't. Just because it's really difficult, Kim. Some people know the brand, and I think we've done a good job, really tapping into the early stage adopters, the indies, kind of people that know the online space, that might, search around online on stuff, but we really haven't commercialized the brand, nowhere near to the point that I want to take it. So I don't really do that, because I don't know the extent that our reach is, and I know only from numbers, but numbers only don't mean that much to me. It's kind of, it's a tricky one to answer, but to answer your question, I don't really, because it's hard. In some ways, it's hard for me to gauge, but also I feel like I'm just scratching the surface, and I'm very goal driven. So yeah, but thank you for the kind words.
Kim, I think we should open this up to the audience. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea.
Excellent.
I'm happy to take the microphone out to the audience this time if you'd like.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah.
All right. Does anyone in the audience have a question for Nathan? Yes, and I'll bring the microphone over.
You mentioned that at 4 months into your business, you already contacted Richard Branson. So can you talk a little bit more about how you did that?
Yeah, sure thing. So, comes back to meeting people that have done what what you want to do. So one thing I found is I found another person that ran their own independent published magazine and interviewed Richard Branson. And I said, and she taught me, this person doesn't even run her magazine anymore, but she taught me how to get in touch with hard to reach people. And this whole process that I shared with you guys just then, she shared with me. So that's one of the biggest growth hacks, success hacks I have is I learn from other people that are doing the things that I want to do. So what I did was, the way to get in touch with Richard Branson is you've got two choices. You either write him a letter, which I've heard is quite successful, and we wanted him to write the foreword for our book, and I got in touch with his head of PR, and she said no. So I'm going to write him a letter to do something else in the near future. So you can either write him a letter, that's powerful, and I've heard that works, or you can track down that his head of PR, and that's what I did. So she didn't give me his contact details, but she told me how she did it. So she, because he publishes a lot of books, a lot of publishers want to they want to sell more books and they want more press. So I did a lot of phone calls. Phone calls is very, very key. I don't always do phone calls. Excuse me. Sometimes I'm lazy, but phone calls is good to get cut through because everyone's getting too many emails. And it's very personable too. It's easy to get a connection. You might have to call quite a few times, but if someone picks up and you're really respectful of their time, and that's what I did. So I tracked back by calling the publishers saying, hey, I run a magazine. We want to interview Richard Branson, who's the best person to speak to. And the publisher of one of his books was PR Random House Penguin. And from there, they gave me this person's details, head of PR, and I remember calling like at least 3 or 4 times, and I remember I pitched her on the phone. I'll never forget, actually, I was like really, really nervous, as you can imagine, and I placed actually a lot of emphasis on closing him. I thought, it'd be so amazing if we can get Richard Branson on the front cover of our magazines when we just started as an entrepreneurial business magazine. That'd be killer. And I'll never forget, my housemate was in the other room and he was making all this noise. So I had to walk into my little, really shitty cold room when I was living in not the nicest house when I was renting. And I remember calling and telling him to be quiet before I called. And, a lot of missed calls, leaving voicemails. And I'll never forget, she actually picked up. So this was somebody in London. Head of PR for Virgin. And I'll never forget, I said to her, and I was stumbling and I was nervous. And I said, I gave her my pitch and said, I run this magazine. It wasn't even called Founder at the time. It was called something else, by the way. And then she was just like, oh, okay. So I said, do you have much time to speak? And she's like, I'm just about to hop on the tube. I'm just about to hop on the tube. You got 2 minutes. And I gave her my pitch, and then she was just like, oh, you haven't been, how long have you been around for? And I was just like, 4 months. And she's like, oh, geez, you guys are new. And I was like, yeah. And then she was just like, oh, well, look, tell you what, shoot me an email. Please understand, she said, first of all, please understand that we get at least 10 to 20 pitches like this a day. I'll tell you what, shoot me an email, and I can't promise anything, but I promise I will get back to you either way. And I thought, for sure, I blew it. And, I got off the phone really disappointed. And, I wrote a really, really good email. And because she said, I'll speak to Sir Richard. She obviously works with him quite closely. And she said, I'll speak to him and see what I can do. But I promise I'll get back to you. And I wrote a really good email, and I played on the fact that his first business venture was actually a student magazine. And I played on the fact also that our magazine targets aspiring and young entrepreneurs as well, and, upstarts. And, she wrote back, a few days later and said, look, because I pitched for a Skype interview. That's how we usually do them. Usually Skype, sometimes in person, very, very rarely, depends. And that's all going to change in the next year. We're setting up an office in the States. But long story short, she said he's happy to do the interview, but can only do over email. And we just took that, ran with it. and then use that as front cover and really use that to leverage the credibility of our brand. And then from that, it was a springboard to get other influencers and convince other people to be on the front covers of our magazine.
Wow. Was his face on your front cover?
Yeah, of course.
Wow. Who's got the question? Does anyone else?
Who was it for? Somebody want to ask a question?
Hi.
Hello.
Just to get into the technical bit a little bit, just how often do you post? Like when you're starting out, when you read online, some people would just say post 3 times a day as much as you can. Or do you actually go over more in terms of the quality of what you post and then just sort of spread out? Or, yeah.
Is this for Instagram or any social platform?
I guess for Instagram or like, so you know how like when you post on Instagram, you can link it to post on Facebook as well?
Yep.
Firstly, do you recommend that or it should be completely, totally different posts?
Yeah, okay, so I'll tell you our stack, marketing stack, these are the tools that we use. So we use a tool called Edgar, Meet Edgar, and that allows you to build a content library. So we use that especially for our Twitter. Our Twitter's over 100,000 followers. It doesn't drive that much traffic, but it's decent. It doesn't drive that much traffic comparison to other channels that drive traffic for us, but it drives at least 15,000 monthly unique visitors just off Twitter that we can track through Google Analytics. And we use Meet Edgar, and we build a library. So it what it does is it's constantly randomizing different posts, different things, different times. And for Twitter, we post every half an hour because it moves so fast. And then I use a tool called Social Quant, which is like a growth automation tool. And between those two tools and then an autoresponder to send direct messages to people to offer them the Richard Branson issue for free, that's all we do for Twitter. That's literally all we do for Twitter. And, we've grown that to like 100,000 something and it drives good traffic for us and good leads and leads to sales. And in regards to Facebook, we use Meet Edgar, but on a much lighter level because Facebook, you have to train the algorithm in a very, very heavy way that you only post good stuff. And obviously all of our stuff is good. We don't post anything that we think is bad. In Twitter, we only really post blog posts or articles or links to free ebooks or stuff about the magazine or little bit quotes. But yeah, for the most part, that's what we do for Twitter, and we use Meet Edgar for Facebook to build our content library, but we don't post nowhere near as aggressively. We maybe post like 2-3 times a day. And the key with Facebook we've found at the moment is videos. And we have content relationships with a lot of influencers where we have their permission to download their videos and manually upload them. And doing that, we've grown our Facebook, and that drives a reasonable amount of traffic as well now. It is a little hard to track. We're just starting to get good with our UTM tracking in regards to how much sales it brings, but we've grown that to, over 100. We've generated at least 100,000 followers on Facebook in the past 6 months just doing that strategy. But it's all about video for Facebook. It's massively, massively, massively about video, and that's what we do with Facebook. And we post some of the same content, but you wouldn't even know. We don't give the same experience. We use different experiences on each social platform. That's really, really important. And then for Instagram, that's run by, I came up with the system and now it's run by 2 virtual assistants in the Philippines. I don't really touch it. And all they're doing is posting and we've got a really solid strategy. So yeah, we don't use an agency. We don't even have a full-time person, social media manager. It's done by 2 virtual assistants and they do plenty of other stuff. In terms of volume, we post 5 to 8 times a day. We've found with Instagram, the more you post, the faster you grow. But of course, as always, it's about quality content at scale. Like you look, and I treat it like, in terms of posting length, I think of it like this, like all these big content sites that generate, you know, once you get to plus 10 million plus monthly unique visitors per month, so 10 million plus, even in the millions, you can't just post like one really, really good blog post a week. You've got to do quality content at scale. I know for a fact that entrepreneur.com, they do at least 300 to 500 articles a week or something insane. And that's how they generate, you know, 30 million monthly unique visitors. And for us, we want to play a different game. We want, they're all about listicles. We want to go really in depth, really high quality content, but at scale. So at the moment we're producing, you know, 5 to 7 blog posts a week, but super in depth, 3,000, 5,000 word plus like case studies and just really, really solid content, because that's how we differentiate our content and the brand. So it's all about posting quality content at scale. The more you can post that's quality, the better. You look at Gary Vee. I study a lot of brands, and I study people that are really, really smart at this stuff. So I look at everything that Gary Vaynerchuk does. One thing that we're getting a lot of traction with at the moment is our Instagram stories. We get anywhere between 30 to 50K views per story, and we're pushing to all sorts of things, driving traffic from, you name it, to all sorts of products, offers, free stuff. Blog posts, you name it, and that's really, really strong. And we've got a rule now with our Instagram stories that we always have something. If you ever look and go to the founder Instagram page, when you press, you'll see a story. So there's always something within every 24 hours. Pinterest, I don't even know. We're not really that strong. We're just starting to master that one. And then YouTube, we haven't started on that, but that's the next platform we look to master, which I think in regards to social, the platforms that I care about the most is Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. To me, for B2C, they are the most relevant ones that you need to be concerned and spend your time. I follow everything that Gary Vaynerchuk says. I'm just reiterating exactly what he said. And for us at YouTube and anything that we do, we create a kind of within the company, like this is when you're working with teams, you don't have to worry about working with teams, just a rule. We have a rule book. So we have a rule book around every single content medium that we put out. So with Instagram, it's just a glorified rule in the company, and the people that are responsible, that they know we have to post 5 to 7, 5 to 8, 5 to 9, whatever times per day, period. If it's not happening, we have a problem. Like, it's red alert. Same with the blog posts. Now we've got a rule with our blog posts in terms of internal blog posts on the founder blog that we have to be posting at least 5 posts a week. If we don't, red alert. Same with the podcast. We have to ship every single week on a Thursday. You'll get an epic podcast interview with a really, really smart founder. Same with the magazine. Every single month, of the middle of every month, you'll get an awesome magazine issue on the app or wherever you're subscribed. Same with Twitter. So we just have rules. So I think it's really, really smart when you're getting started to have rules that you live by and you just know, and it becomes a habit. So then it's not so much I have to post. It's not so much like this is what this person told me. This is what works and this is what we do forever. And that's how you build your brand, because if you have these rules, it's a concept called Lego block marketing, because, you know, once you master Twitter, then you move to Facebook. Once you master Facebook, then you move to paid acquisition on Facebook. Then once you master that, then you move to Instagram. Once you master blogging, then you move to that. And you just keep building these blocks. Think of like Lego, and then each one, that's how you grow. And then, you know, the more channels that you have, the more traffic you drive, and as long as you're tracking it, as Tom talked about, and you're getting an ROI, that's how you build your business.
How do you maintain quality in all of those posts? Because obviously that's quite a lot as a small startup, and trying to constantly do that. I understand obviously over time you're going to get better at doing it and understanding what the message is to your customer, but how would you maintain the quality of like the posts that you're doing and the images that you're posting, rather than just churning it out because of the time? Yeah,
so we've done it very, very slow. Please keep in mind that we've been around for 4 years now. That's a long time. And in the first year when I started Founder, we had no social media presence. It was only 2 years ago, basically 2 years ago, that we started on social. Even having like an awesome website with a blog. It took me 1.5 years to launch a website with a blog. So it does take time, and that's why I think you really have to focus on one at a time, set up a system, hire, I was doing it solo. Like, when I started, I was solo. Now we have 10 staff. Like, we're still quite small, and we're only just getting warmed up. But we've done it one Lego block at a time, and we've tested and we've spent the time to find out what works, and we're constantly refining our strategy too. So you've got to monitor it as well. But yeah, I really highly recommend. I don't want to intimidate people. I'm just being 100% raw and honest. That's what we do in the brand. We share everything that's working. We don't hold back. I'm just holding back what's working for us and the scale that we're working towards and what's working for us. But yeah, look, you have to start from somewhere, right? And you have to just start with one channel and just see how it goes. And then, I'm a big believer in utilizing overseas talent when it's necessary. So we have two Filipinos. They're amazing. They're absolute weapons. They're VAs that we use. It's like $800 Australian for a month to have those people full time, one person full time. Not even, you can get someone cheaper than that, but we pay really well. And once you start, make a little bit of money, and you want to get more leverage, you hand that over and you set up a system. There's a really great book called The E-Myth. It's by a guy called Michael Gerber, and he talks about systems and building systems within your business, and that's how you build a machine. Like, that's what we're building. We're building a content machine, but always we have to make sure the quality is great because that's how we get the cut through. Founder wouldn't be able to grow, or wouldn't be. It's pointless if we do what we do if we're just churning out crap. And we have checkpoints in place where we're constantly looking, and I'm always looking and seeing what's going out, but. We have a pretty high standard, and it's communicated across our culture. But when it was just me, I've always had this standard of high standard, quality standard stuff, because that's how we differentiate ourselves in the marketplace. That's a form of USP for us. It's just really, really great content that's super actionable, strategical, and tactical. And if we ever defer from that, that's when we lose. So we start with just one channel, only one channel. Don't worry about any other channel. Choose one channel. Spend literally 10 minutes a day on that channel. And if you can do that, you'll be beating 99% of the people out there and all your competitors. Yeah.
And obviously, as a magazine, do you treat your customers any different in terms of life cycle? I know we've talked heavily about acquisition tonight, about getting customers to the brand, signing up. Do you do anything different from a business for after post-purchase or in a life cycle journey?
Yeah, look, it depends on the product, to be honest. Churn is difficult, especially for a product that doesn't have lock-in. That's why one day we want to build a technology product, just because I think it's really solid. But long story short, magazines, people do churn. Don't get me wrong. Even at $2 a month or $21.99 a year, people do churn and people don't use it. So you have to have ways to loop people back in. But it depends on the product, right? I think what you're looking for is a concept that I'm quite familiar with and that we do use at Founder, should get better, is creating wow moments. This is post-purchase, whether it's a single one-off purchase or a recurring revenue, like a subscription-based purchase. You have to focus on wow moments. And the first place to focus on when you trigger those wow moments is knowing your retention rate. So we know for a fact that if you subscribe to the magazine, depending on what subscription, let's say, for a year, there's an average of 18 months there, right? So we know that if there's an average of 18 months, then on the 18th month, we're going to surprise you and give you something awesome. So that's the first place to look at implementing wow moments for retention strategies. But then also, if it's not a subscription-based business model and not looking at retention, you always have to try and under-promise and over-deliver. It's like Tom talked about that experience. And everything his company does around experience. We need to get better at this in certain elements of our business. So listening to him talk was great to get me think of things that we could do better. But long story short, in regards to retention for subscriptions, or even just one-off purchases, you always have to under-promise, over-deliver, and delight your customers and surprise them when they don't even expect it, because just that little thing can go such a long way. So just as an example, we do have a course, one of our courses that does quite well. It's an Instagram course, funnily enough, and we're producing courses at scale at the moment, and we want to have at least 30 in-depth courses by the end of next year, like super in-depth courses taught by experts. And these are online courses, by the way, online pre-recorded courses. And one thing that we do, it's quite an expensive course, you know, it's $1,000 USD, but it's for business owners that have a business that are making money, et cetera, like, and they want to take it to the next level, and long story short, we send a handwritten thank you card. So people don't know that's coming, but when they buy that product, they get a handwritten thank you card. And then, you know, we offer a 60-day money-back guarantee. So are we going to surprise them with something when it gets around, you know, the 55-day mark? Of course. You know, it's just delighting your customers, sharing things, awesome things that people will not expect. And yeah, if you search, there's a really good document by this company called Infusionsoft. That's a CRM we use. They created a checklist called Infusionsoft Wow Moments, and there's like 100 things you can do post-purchase to delight your customers. There's like 100 different ideas. It's a killer checklist. I highly recommend you Google that and check it out.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
One more question at the back there, Kim. I think we'll need to wrap this up shortly.
Just a quick question. You said you started social media 2 years ago. And you've been around for 4. What did you do for your first 2 years? How did you connect with your customers and potential customers?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So we've been around for 4 years, started the brand March 2013. So the first year I was just working my day job, and I was 100% focused on building a great product. That's all I really cared about. That's all I really had time for, and shipping a monthly magazine issue. But I did discover that there was extreme low-hanging fruit that took minimal effort that rapidly helped grow the brand. So what I discovered was one of the, because Tom talked about this as well, like, you have to be able to acquire customers profitably. That's very, very key. Your business, you're in the wrong business, or there's something seriously wrong if you cannot acquire customers profitably. Now that doesn't mean you have to pay. You know, for a very, very long time, we never did paid acquisition. It's been all organic. So in the first year, there was only one channel that I focused on to grow the magazine subscription base. And that was, and I discovered it from serious research and, once again, speaking to really smart people that are really, really good at this stuff, like, you know, growing apps, because fundamentally Founder Magazine is an app. What I discovered was the lowest hanging fruit for apps that cost no money to acquire a customer is App Store SEO. So there's SEO for like Google, but there's also App Store SEO, where what you can do is you can find and research certain keywords that are relevant to your target market audience and niche that you're going after and rank for them. And certain keywords bring a serious amount of volume, like serious amount of traffic and searches. So what I did is I growth hacked App Store SEO and for Founder, and it's still to this day, if you search for Entrepreneur Magazine, Forbes Magazine, Fast Company, Founder will come up first or second, so people will see it. So that was the lowest hanging fruit that I found, and that's all I focused on for the first year in growing the magazine, in starting. Then when I left my day job, you know, it took me just over a year to leave my day job, and, you know, I focused on building a new website and just trying to find my way, because when you go full-time, when you've been working a 9 to 5 and you're used to that structure, it's really difficult to readjust. It took me a few months to readjust, and then, you know, I went to the States and met all these people and did a bit of, you know, travel and met up with really smart entrepreneurs, and that really inspired me. And then I started testing channels. So by that stage, yeah, I was just testing channels, and then by, you know, it took me a couple months, 3-4 months to test some channels, and then by that stage, yeah, Instagram stuck, and then things really started to take off for us. And then, yeah, we started working at mastering one at a time.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to have to wrap that up this evening. But thanks again to Nathan Chan, everybody. So can we give a round of applause?